Hello, YouTube. This is Mike, and this is the four things that heal BPD and NPD abuse channel. And I'm on here because I thought that this whole Will Smith slap heard around the world, is a very important discussion because now we're talking about what I believe to be systemic narcissism found in our entire society. So, before I go any further, again, the reason why I've stopped doing live streams and making videos is because there's, how many times can I say the same thing? If you want to heal, in my experience, there's only one way to completely heal. Sorry if that sounds dogmatic, but that's my experience. And my experience is you do the four things. So if you're in a romantic relationship with somebody who has BPD or NPD, then in my experience, there's only there's only one, tried and true, guaranteed healing, and that is to do the four things. The first one is to go complete no contact, which means that you make it impossible for your borderline or narcissist partner to contact you. It doesn't mean you don't contact them. I haven't called them all day. Oh, the phone is ringing. I tried to go no contact, but then they called or they came over. No, it means that you block their phone, you block their Facebook. Oh, they know where you live? Great, move. Oh, I just bought a house. Okay, sell it. Stop giving me excuses. If you knew that you lived over a toxic radiation dump, and by just staying there, the radiation was killing you, you would go, oh crap, I bought a house, it's over a toxic radiation dump, I need to move. You would move. Your life depended on it. Your life depends on it here. So you go complete no contact. That's number one. My experience, you don't do that, it's going to be impossible to heal. Number two, you go to coda.org, which is codependenceanonymous.org, and you go to meetings and you work the 12 steps. That's the most important part. Don't complain to me about you don't like the meetings. It's full of a bunch of sick people. Right. It's full of a bunch of untreated codependents. It's like going to the hospital when you're sick and saying, I don't like going to the hospital. There's a bunch of sick people there. Right. That's where sick people go. So you're there to get healing, and there's going to be other people in there that are going to be there to get healing, and they're at various levels of recovery. Some of them are not in any recovery at all, and you'll find out that the ones that don't have any recovery are the ones that aren't working the steps. So it's not about going to meetings, it's about getting a sponsor and working the steps. And don't tell me that you can't do it because there's no meetings where you live. That's what Zoom is for. If you're watching this, it means that you have access to the internet, which means you have access to Zoom meetings. So if there's none in your city, great. They're all over the world. You can attend a meeting on the other side of the world from Zoom. You can get a sponsor. You can work the steps. I don't want to go because of COVID. I mean, don't give me any of that nonsense bullshit excuse. You can go. So those are the two most important things. If you want to heal, do those two things. Go no contact, work the 12 steps. Those are absolutely necessary. You don't do both of those, you're not going to be completely healed. I'm just telling you, again, from my experience and from my observation. Anybody who hasn't done those things can't talk about it. So anybody who says that what I just said is wrong, blah, 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 if they haven't done it, they can't tell you that. So if you talk to somebody that can convince you that they've gone completely no contact and that they have worked all 12 steps honestly and thoroughly with a sponsor and then sponsored somebody else, and if then they're going to tell you that the steps actually made them worse, but you're not going to hear that. Number three is work with a psychologist. You can't afford a psychologist. I understand that. My experience is that what many people will say is they've done 1 and 3, which is they've gone no contact and worked with a psychologist. But my experience is that just working with a psychologist or even a counselor is that the pain never really goes away. You're still ruminating decades afterwards. Psychologists are great at helping you look at your unconscious and look at your family of origin issues, but it doesn't mean that they have the ability to give you the strength to heal. The thing that changes your neural pathways is the fourth step, as well as the ninth step and the 10th and the 11th. Those are the things that change the neural pathways in the brain that actually make you heal and make you realize that the relationship was never really what this was about for you. That was a way for you to play out your unresolved childhood psychological issues that don't completely go away. The relationship, you'll be completely healed from that. You want complete healing from the pain. You want to stop ruminating about the narcissist or the borderline. Steps 1 and 2. The third step, working with a psychologist, helps if you're doing 1 and 2. If you just do 1 and 3, or if you just do 3, my experience is at best you'll have slight release from it. You'll tap into the feelings, but the engine that's driving the pain never really goes away. And then the fourth thing that I recommend is daily meditation of some kind. Now that's really step 11. And so really the truth is the only steps or things that you need to do is 1 and 2. Those are the mandatory things. You do 1 and 2, I can guarantee you that eventually you will be free of all pain associated with that relationship. If you don't do those 2, then my experience is that this damage never goes away. That's my experience. So let me just get that out there. That's what this channel is about. If you're on here because you want to enjoy the gossip about Will Smith, or you want to hear me gossip about borderlines and narcissists, you're free to do that, but you're not going to get any healing. So there you go. Having said that, let me now address some comments which I thought were relevant. And I think what's relevant about this Will Smith Oscar slap scenario, which I found to be very traumatizing. I still am thinking about it. I'm still thinking about it, a week later, and it's because it brings out so much of the, it's just so clear how deep and toxic this narcissistic abuse and the serious codependence. And now again, codependence, you can see how abusive you can be. Will Smith is a codependent. Whatever narcissism he has, so far, I don't get the sense that he has a personality disorder. I think he's extremely codependent, but he could be. His Oscar acceptance speech was the definition of toxic codependence, the definition of it. And he's obviously abusive. And so you think that you're a saint. You think that you're being a river to your people and being loving and wanting to be this God who controls and protects everybody, like Will Smith desperately wants to be. You see what happens with that the self degradation and the allowing of the continual abuse. That rage has to go somewhere. And you may not be slapping people in the face, but I guarantee you are acting out destructively towards innocent people, and you have no clue about it, and you justify it in your own way, whatever way that is. So that's what you get for saying, I'm just here to help. I'm a river to my people. I'm here to help everybody. I protect everybody. I'm a fierce defender of my family. God is calling on me to love people. That's what you get. The end result of that is somebody's going to do or say something that may or may not have any connection or have any truth, but you're going to be so hyper defensive of your abuser that you're going to lash out in an incredibly destructive way that you can't go back from that. Will Smith cannot backpedal from this. There's no way. So if you think that you're okay because you're not the borderline or you're not the narcissist, now take a look. Here's an example of how narcissistic you are as an untreated codependent. So, having said that, this person asks a great question in regards to the children. I normally don't talk about families because this channel is about healing yourself from a romantic relationship with borderlines. And as I've said, you do the four things, that's where the healing comes in. You don't do the four things, especially if you don't do one and two, that's required. If you don't do one and two, you're not going to have any lasting or any real significant healing. That's just the way I see it. You're free to try and prove me wrong and enjoy that. If it works, don't fix it. And the first two things I laid out work. So he says, in regards to the children, I saw on a Granite forum, boomers and older. So this is a forum of older people, people my age, who, although I don't have any kids, these are people who have kids, right? So that means there's a forum on there with narcissistic people who have damaged their children. And this thread, he says, a thread talking about how no contact is destroying families. And no contact is the new brainwashing. So the assumption there is that if you don't go no contact, then the families aren't destroyed. So if we're talking about going no contact with narcissistic parents, the destruction is going on. It's just that the families are in contact, so it's continuous destruction. And no contact is the new brainwashing. If we are talking about legitimately narcissistic parents, and they've created codependent and or narcissistic kids, and those kids are in therapy now, and they've found out, like I did, that getting help for yourself means going no contact from your primary abusers. Then the most gaslighting thing you can say is, you're destroying our family, and this is the new brainwashing. And this is what narcissists say. This is gaslight speak for, you're not doing what I want. You're being brainwashed. But, again, what narcissists do is they project. And so the projection that they're giving, assuming that this is, real dysfunctional family, is that they've been destroying, not the family, they've been destroying the individuals. So you have the family, which is the family unit. But if the family unit is a unit that is based in destruction, just to give you an example, based again on the Will Smith family, those whole red table talks where Jada Pinkett emasculates and devalues Will Smith by saying to his face that she's never been happy, she just needed to go have sex with a 22-year-old friend of her 15-year-old son, and do that and have a relationship with him. And she had to do that because she was just so unhappy, and because it made her happy, and because she needed to find healing for herself by instrumentalizing and using a damaged young man. She love bombed him. She absolutely explored and explained what love bombing is. That in order to offset her pain, she finds somebody that she projects onto, somebody who is in pain, somebody who is minimized and damaged, and so she sees herself in him. That's called projection, and she projects onto him what she wants for herself, which is and again, this is codependence. Codependents do this also. So this is, all the same for borderlines, narcissists, codependents. All of them love bomb, all of them. And you're projecting onto somebody you see as being damaged, who needs you. And she says very clearly that she got her fix by fixing somebody else. Now, what she doesn't acknowledge is that, the narcissistic supply, because again, just because, narcissistic abuse doesn't mean that the person abusing doesn't feel all kinds of loving feelings. It's just, it's narcissistic, meaning they're getting high, and so do you, codependents. She was getting high off of the feeling that came from love bombing this lost, sick, damaged, depressed 22-year-old sensitive artist. She love bombed him, which of course he responded to like a lost puppy or a lost kitten. And you've been there, you've been on the other side of it. It just opens you up and you fall in love with them. And so that's their narcissistic supply. They finally find their worth. They get all that energy, all of that just very innocent energy of a damaged little child, because that's exactly what's been released in them. And the difference is there's nothing wrong with that, except that then they don't stay. The moment that real intimacy comes as a result of that, the narcissist in the borderline will devalue and discard, which is what she did. And in that Red Table Talk, when she called it an entanglement, that was a discard. She took no responsibility for, no doubt, promising to that young man that they were going to be together, that she was going to fix him, that he's the man for her, because Will Smith didn't have the ability, didn't have the strength. So then, I'm sure that something like that happened. I'm guessing, but I'm pretty confident something along those lines happened. So what you'll see with them is that they will do that. They'll love bomb. They'll get the bonding, and then they'll discard. And the discard was so destructive that, okay, she's not mentioning his name, but he knows who he is, and everybody else knows that it's him. Everybody in the family knows that it is. Will Smith knows that it's him. Will Smith saw, according to him, he, because I'm sure Jada Pinkett manipulated it to happen, because nobody in their right mind would fucking do this. Nobody in their fucking right mind would do this. The 22-year-old kid goes to Will Smith, the still legal husband of the mother of his friend, Jaden Smith, goes to Will Smith and has a sit down with him and gets Will Smith to give him his approval. I have no doubt in my mind that Jada orchestrated all of that. Incredibly destructive. She's sitting back and getting narcissistic supply on this whole thing under the guise of healing and truth and all of that other bullshit. And so she then, after all of that, and he says he gave himself to her for years, after years of him giving himself to her, I feel, I don't know, but I feel pretty confident that that relationship fell apart for who knows what reasons, and then she went back to Will and love bombed him and hoovered him. And then in order to keep that hoovering going, she says, yes, it was an entanglement. So she doesn't even give it she doesn't even give that guy she just throws him under the bus, treats him like a nothing, like a wart. He was an entanglement. Oh yeah, I got tangled up on some roots around my feet. Yeah, it tangled me up. Not a person, an entanglement. So anyway, I don't know what I was talking about, but just the whole point of that's a destructive relationship. And so you're going to tell me that going no contact from that is destroying families? That's a family that is living in continuous destruction. So going no contact doesn't destroy families. It puts a halt to the destruction, at least in those who are seeking to heal, true healing. And, that's exactly what a gaslighting, destructive parent would say is, this is the new brainwashing. They're brainwashing you. That's what, that's called gaslighting. And then goes on to say that no contact is the new brainwashing and not accepting any accountability. Again, there's the projection. The destructive parents take no accountability. Jada Pinkett Smith has yet to take any accountability for any of the damage that she's caused. Will Smith, unfortunately, he is also responsible because he's the adult. And he has chosen to repeatedly go back, and you see the damage. You see it on his face in his acceptance speech. What God is calling him to do, to love people, we all know who he's talking about. And it's killing him. And now she's gonna drag him in front of the whole world and do her red table talk, where she's going to be the therapist. Guaranteed, she's going to take on the role of the therapist to create some healing, and she's going to continue to force him in public, manipulate him in public to continue to damage himself, because that's the only thing that's going to come out of this. She's not going to take any responsibility. She's going to have him take faux responsibility. And of course, they're going to blame Chris Rock and all of that, and she's going to make it about herself. And no awareness that she is continuing to destroy her family. Lucky for both of them that they're rich enough. I'm sure that they're wealthy enough that even if, their careers were destroyed, they'll be able to live comfortably for the rest of their lives. So she can afford to completely destroy his career and destroy her career and potentially destroy the career of their kids. She can get away with that. But that's what's happening. She's going to now finish the job in these red table talks. Apparently, he can't talk about the slap unless he goes to. I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if things continue to get worse. And if this tends to be, well, let's just say this. This would follow very typical borderline narcissist devaluing, and the next stage after the ultimate devaluation, which is what is happening now. You're seeing Will Smith going through the ultimate devaluation. She's going to put it up on screen for everybody to see, and we're going to watch her devalue him even more. And then what will happen is he will double down, because now he doesn't have his career anymore to give him any narcissistic supply or codependent supply. He's now not the perfect everything. He is now, nobody respects him. And the worst is, for a tough man, to be seen as spineless and to not have any balls, which is how he's viewed. Now she's going to go in for the kill, and she's going to devour him. It would not surprise me if then after that, we find out that she has then discarded him. She will then discard him, and he will be, I don't know. That may not happen, but that would be a typical scenario, because there's nothing left for her to get out of him. He doesn't have any fame for her to latch onto. There's nothing left. He's just completely been hollowed out. Unless he gets some help, which is a possibility. I hope he does. Maybe he'll get some help. And again, this could all be just a bunch of gossip. I don't know, but we'll see. We can find out if I'm right or not. And I don't need to be right, by the way. I don't care. I don't have any need to be correct about any, but I hope that everybody wakes up tomorrow and goes and gets help, Jada included. And maybe this will be a big, giant turnaround for the whole human race, and they'll lead the way and show people how to heal from narcissistic abuse. I don't know. But what are my thoughts on family dynamics? It takes, as somebody said, you got 3 years to get it right. The first 3 years of a child's life is what's going to form their mind and their emotions. People get BPD and NPD within sometimes the first couple months of their life. That's how fast you can destroy a child. So if there's enough abuse or neglect within a couple of months, they can go NPD or BPD. BPD doesn't show up later. What I was going to say about Willow Smith is that, here's a, borderline in training, because she says publicly, and again, I'm only going by what she publicly says, that when she watched the red table talks with her mom, abusing and at the same time hoovering Will Smith and talking, and emasculating him saying, how damaged she was and how she needed healing and how it was really educational for her and she just needed to feel good. And, and he's right there in front of her. He didn't seek out her. He didn't seek him out and say, can you help me feel better? She sought out somebody else. And Willow Smith said, that's real love. So that's what's important, is that she learns that love is to abuse a man. So she been taught by her mom publicly, because they get all of this narcissistic supply from all of these people watching this. She's been taught that real love is when you find a man who is willing to let you devalue and emasculate him in front of the world. And in her mind, she says that's real love. And it's not, it's abuse. So she has now equated abuse with love. She learned it from her mom. So what are my thoughts on family dynamics? Borderlines create borderlines, narcissists create narcissists. And going no contact, because I've worked with people who have, had similar scenarios like this. They don't become so damaged that they have personality disorders, but the pain of their codependence really inhibits their ability just to know how to function, how to have any relationship. And that's been the case with me as well. So my thoughts on family dynamics is the sooner you can get those kids away from those parents, the better. People come on here and they say, first off, let's just be clear again, people have to take full responsibility for their actions. So people come on here and they somehow become aware that their significant other is a borderline, and they've already got kids. And so they say, I can't go no contact because I have kids, and what'll happen to the kids? And my response is, that's when you go get a lawyer and you secure your rights as a parent to have access to them. If possible, see if you can get sole custody of the kids, because the more those kids are around those narcissistic parents, the more damaged they will become. So it is your responsibility. Oops, we just had kids. Well, you chose to have unprotected sex with somebody you now know has a very severe mental illness. There's no doubt in my mind that you knew back then there were serious red flags, and you chose to have sex and have kids, probably to fix the marriage. Jada Smith says that. She says that the only reason she married Will Smith was because her mom told her to do it because she was pregnant. And the result is what we're seeing now. So, doing the right thing or to please your partner. Will Smith apparently wanted to have a family, so she allowed herself to be manipulated into that, wasn't honest, and now she's taking it out on the entire world. Her rage for being forced into getting married and being forced to have children. And you see it with the kids. Willow Smith cut herself at some point. Don't know anything about Jaden other than he wanted to go and become emancipated at 15. This doesn't happen in healthy families. And so my thoughts on family dynamics is get those kids away from those narcissistic parents as soon as possible. And then you say, is it okay for children of BPD parents to go no contact? Yeah. I mean, that's what you do. Listen, when I was 18, when I first got into 12-step work to save my own life, my life was on the line. Had I not gone, I would have died. And there was serious resistance from my parents. And I was, think about that. I was going into 12-step recovery to save my life. And my parents were guilting me. I got such guilt from my brother. My brother, my mom, and my dad, came at me and tried to guilt me out of it. And the amount of abuse I took just for deciding to get into a 12-step group and keep myself from dying, it was, looking back on it, it's amazing that I survived. And I had to come to the conclusion, that I started going no contact. It was impossible for me to go no contact because of my financial dependence on him at that time. But um, I I started going no contact, and there was a lot of guilt around it. And I remember, other people not understanding when I said I can't have anything to do with my family. And I couldn't even put it into words. I was so young, and I didn't know what I didn't know what I know now. But I came to the conclusion that just because I am physically related to somebody does not make them my family. For me, the definition of family is somebody who loves me for who I am, who loves me unconditionally, and loves me in a way that empowers my life. And so I sort of adopted my friend's family. I had my best friend at the time, and his family, well, they weren't perfect either, but they were a heck of a lot better than mine. And so sometimes I would spend holidays with them. Or if I had to spend holidays with my parents, I would do as little as I could, and then I would get in my car and drive over to their house and hang out with them. And they were my brothers, his brother, they were my brothers, and his parents were my parents. Um, and so what are my thoughts about children of BPD parents going no contact? You have to do what you have to do. The whole point of parents is to love the children and empower them to be the best that they can be, and to project onto them individuation and self-empowerment. And they're obviously not doing that if they're narcissistic. So why would you impose upon a child to have to be around people? Because here's the other thing. I asked myself, I said, if I weren't related to my brother, my mom, and my dad, would I have them in my life? And the answer was no. So if the only reason that they're in my life is because I'm related to them, I said, there's no reality to that. I'm going to put them to the same standards I put to anybody else. If anybody else in the world treated me the way they did, they would not be in my life. So those are my thoughts about that. I think it's pretty clear. I think it's okay for people, if they've been damaged, to go no contact. And people have the right to do whatever they want. When I did my fourth step on my dad, he was an alcoholic and he drank himself to death. And I had a lot of anger and resentment about that. Who wouldn't? But when I did my fourth step on him, I came to the realization that he had the right to do whatever he wanted. That it wasn't fair of me to demand that he be the father that I wanted him to be, because he has his own life. And if he wanted to drink himself to death, that was his choice. And so just like it was my dad's choice to live his life, it was my choice, and it is the choice of all children of destructive parents, to do what they need to do to have the best life they can be. And I happen to be somebody who believes in life after death, and I believe in reincarnation, and I believe in the soul. And I believe that even though my dad and I our relationship never recovered, we at best were at sort of a détente, and the last 6 months of his life, we tried to repair our relationship, and the best we could do was that I showed up to spend time with him, and what would happen is that we would sit in the same room for a half an hour and not say anything. We were both trying to come up with something to say, but we couldn't, because the distance was too great. And I believe that because I did in fact get into recovery, and that he saw that, I believe that I was an example to his soul. So I believe next time around, if he hasn't already reincarnated, if he does reincarnate, I believe that memory will be in his soul, and it might give him the strength next time around to take actions to be healthy. So we owe it to our parents to go no contact, because that would have been their job, to set boundaries. If we were kids and if they were healthy parents and we were acting out destructively, Their job would be to set boundaries so that we would learn from that. So it's not our job to fix our parents, but by going no contact, you're setting very clear boundaries. And if they want to have contact with you, it's real simple. They can go get help. So they don't want to destroy families? Great. Get your ass into therapy. I haven't had any contact with my brother. I don't think I ever will. I don't even know if he's still alive. But if he were to reach out to me and ask, to connect with me, I would say, great. Tell me after you've been in therapy for, 6 months or a year, and then I will come and meet you at your therapist's office. That would be the only way that I would have any interaction with my narcissistic, abusive brother. You can do that with your parents. They want to not destroy the family? Great. Get their ass into therapy, and after they've been in therapy for a while, go and meet them at their therapist's office. Have somebody there to protect you, unlike going to the red table talks where the abuser is acting as the therapist and the patient, which is what we'll see when Will Smith and Jada Pinkett do their thing. So that's my response to that about the family dynamics. There's other things on here. People have said nice things about me wanting to stay on the channel, and I appreciate that. But again, this channel, maybe it's doing some good, maybe it's not. But the bottom line is, if you guys aren't doing the 4 things, you're not going to heal. And I just don't want to keep, having the same conversations over and over again on the live streams. And the truth is that me leaving the channel, people have communicated to me that they've gone and started going to CODA and working the 12 steps. And if me separating, going no contact from the channel is what gets you to heal yourselves, so much the better. I'm not in this for me. I don't have any narcissistic supply in this. I've thought a lot about it because the channel is successful, and could I turn it around and turn it into a moneymaker? Maybe I could, but the only way to do that would be to just continuously keep, co-signing the victim mentality. And I just don't want to do that. The truth is now it's been 2.5 years since I've worked the steps on my borderline X, and I am nowhere like that same person. I don't even remember what it was like. I don't, and it was really awful, but I have no memory of how awful it was, because I've healed from that. And so that's what I want for you. So there it is. If other things like this come up, like this Will Smith thing, which I think is a societal, I think he's like the head of the pimple of our society's narcissism. He's the pimple of our narcissism. And unfortunately, this is the thing with celebrities, is that they unconsciously channel the craziness of their society. That's one of the risks you take when you become a celebrity, or when you become a politician, or when you become, public figure. The collective unconscious will flow through you. I'm not taking away any of his responsibility, but he really does represent the narcissism in our society right now, and so I think it's worth talking about. So if something like this comes up again, where I think it's valuable as a whole to talk about, I will. But in terms of the nuts and bolts of getting over your borderline or your narcissistic abuse, just do the 4 things. You won't have to watch this channel anymore. All right, that's it. I wish you guys all the best, and I will see you when I see you. Take care.